Hi, friends. Welcome to Law Chat with Girja. My name is Girja Bhargav Patel. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I am a podcaster. I am an educator. I am a businesswoman. I am an entrepreneur, and I'm a lawyer. I truly believe in the power of mentorship through storytelling, and that's what Law Chat is all about. So whether you are in 6 months or 10 years of business experience, we can all learn from each other's experiences because we face the same challenges and we have the victories and we have mistakes that we're all making. So why not lean into them and know that we're going to be fine and we're going to be okay and we're going to be inspired. And of course, this is Law Chat with Girja, so we will be talking about some law at some point during the conversation. And if you love what you hear today, which I know you will, then subscribe to Law Chat with Girja and share the love. So grab your coffee, sparkling water, or wine, and let's dive in to the next inspiring mentorship session. Hi, friends. Welcome to Law Chat with Girja. What is a fireman, Air Force veteran, 23 completed Ironman and half Ironman triathlon, September 11th first responder have in common? My dynamic guest today on Law Chat, Robert Verhelst, also fondly known as Fireman Rob. I was reading his bio and I literally got chills, and I also didn't know how to appropriately introduce him because he is so accomplished, but not only just with what he's done, but also how he has served his community and his nation. And it is such an honor to have him with us today. He talks about his resilience, and he's an author, he's a firefighter, speaker, podcaster, but more than just that, he's just an amazing human all around. And we've been chatting for a while, and I really had to press the record button. Welcome to Law Chat, Fireman Rob.
Oh, it is such an honor to be on here. And yeah, we've been having a great chat before this. You know, is that going to be the extended version?
It should have been, right? It was like more political stuff and real, things that people are like really wanting to hear.
Yeah, exactly. Now we'll tell them what they don't want to hear.
No, thank you so much for being here. Actually, I didn't even get to this when we were talking. It's just what Law Chat is all about. But it's really, my guests come on and I really just love for them to share about their journey. And it's literally mentorship through storytelling. I know you have had some experiences, whether I want to call them amazing or heartfelt or just something that's just really etched into your heart now just because of what you have seen. But, I'd love to hear more about it, dive into a little bit more, the lessons you've learned and the lessons that you've carried over with them. And also you have faced many challenges. How did you overcome them? And, and how do you overcome that mindset sometimes?
Yeah, I love that you put the journey, because that's so important for people to understand, is that, in our society, we're so fixated on success. We're fixated on trophies and awards and accolades. And realistically, I have my Guinness World Record piece of paper over here on the wall. All I have to do is, it's not really exuding anything to me. I have to dust it. That's what it does. It's kind of annoying. And realistically, it's all about the journey and the trials and tribulations that you go through to be able to get that value that you need in life. And that's really what throughout my life, I've kind of figured out, that it's not about the successes. It's about what value can I bring to my life every single day, and what value can I bring to others' lives. And doing all these races and being able to speak and do podcasts, and you and I talked about this earlier, the stories that people bring and the perspectives that people bring is really what makes you a well-rounded individual, to be able to help you to not go down their path, because too many people like to go down that stomped path. I'm more of the briar patch and going through all the scrub brush and everything and making my own path. But that's what you want to take, is you can stay on that path that other people have been on and learn. Mm-hmm. And then when you're ready to take that off path through the briars, through the challenges, to find what your actual potential is, you need to take it. Yeah. And too many people are just comfortable enough to stay on that beaten path and not ever find what potential they actually have in life.
I love that. I just started this thing in middle school for my children in my children's school, and it's called Launchpad. And this is the first time I'm even talking about it, like in public, but it's essentially teaching kids about entrepreneurship and how to build a business. And at the end, having a pitch competition. My goal is to take this to lower income schools because they're just like what you're saying, you're just going through the stomped path, or you're going through a cycle that you can't break because you don't know how to break it. But just like that, if you look into yourself, everybody has God-given abilities. Everybody has God-gifted talents that they have. And you just have to tap into it, identify it, and really have the faith and the courage to move forward with it.
Oh, that's complete. I love that idea because it's so valuable. And the hardest thing I think a lot of people have with opportunities, especially when they haven't seen them before, they aren't, is that it comes in almost like a whisper.
Yes.
And so people don't listen hard enough to see those grand opportunities because they've been yelled at so much. This is what you do. This is who you are. This is what you're going to do. And when you come in with that whisper, sometimes you have to just tap them on the shoulder. It's that, okay, well, I'm going to show you through my actions, not just through my whispering words, because you're not going to hear it. Mm-hmm. Show them through my actions what is possible. And then have them go, hey, guess what? I failed too. A lot of my speaking, I talk about my failures. I talk about, I'm a fireman. We're not supposed to be the smartest people in the world. We do our jobs and we do our jobs well. I have a master's degree, but most of the time it's about showing people that you're human. And you and I talked about this earlier, is that the human component, it doesn't matter what race, gender, age, ethnicity, whatever it is, it's really the human that you are that is going to create that success. That's what it is at the end of the day. All those other things, yes, there's challenges from them. Yes, there's obstacles that'll come in. There's people that will tell you that you can't because of some of those things. But at the end of the day, that gray matter that's in between your ears is gray matter in everybody's head.
Exactly.
And so you just have to use that appropriately to move forward.
Exactly. And that's why this podcast is so important to me, because I want to share with people that entrepreneurship can be a very lonely ride. And a lot of times we're second guessing ourselves and doubting ourselves. But the reality is, a lot of the things that you're facing, many others have faced it. And they've also walked towards that self-doubt, the confusion. And so the idea is that you're not alone. This has happened before, and this is how this person walked through that. And maybe this would be helpful to you, or maybe somebody else's, approach would be helpful. Now, first of all, you don't have to be the smartest in the room. And second of all, as firefighters, I think you are first responders, and
you have to have a little,
you have put your, it is like what you all do as first responders. And you're not just a first responder and firefighter. You're also, you're a veteran also. You did 9/11. There's a lot of that you have done. And so you can be not the smartest in the room, but you have to have the will to do something. And that's what matters. And I think even with this program that has started, my number one pillar of this whole program is hope. And the reason is because it is to give hope to you or to people listening, like that child, that if you look into yourself and you have the will to do it, you can get out of things. You have it in you. And that's the whole point. Like, you can be the smartest, but if you don't have the will to actually go do something, you're just going to be smart, and that's it. And so
you want to know the funny thing is that word hope I have on my helmet shield. That was on my helmet shield when I did my races.
Oh, wow. I love that
word. Kind of crazy, but it's a great word, because it honestly, it does mean the same thing to pretty much everybody. It means the opportunity. It means the potential.
Yes, possibilities.
Oh, yes.
Yes. It's like, even if it's a small amount, it's opening that door slightly. But if you can kind of peek through it, you'll see it. And then it'll open it more. And so I love all of that. But you definitely had a starting point to where you have now come to this point where there's so much wisdom and experience in you that you are able to share this with others. So where did all of this start? Not like I was born on XYZ date, but like...
Well, like you said, it's a journey, it's a culmination. And I think it takes a long time for us to actually get to a point of understanding. And that's really where I am now. Is I'm a point of understanding. Do I struggle every single day? Oh, yes, I struggle every single day. I deal with PTSD. I deal with depression, anxiety. Am I able to put on a strong face? Yeah, of course I am. But at the same time, I'm learning how to get through each day. And I tell people this all the time, is at this point in my life, I'm okay with being 3/4 full. I know that I'm never going to be 100% full. And that's okay with me.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a hard reality? Yeah, of course it's a hard reality. Would I love to be cheery and happy every single day? Oh, it'd be great. But it's not the possibility that I have right now. Kind of going back in time, when I first started doing the stuff with Fireman Rob, it was the 10th anniversary of September 11th attacks, and it landed on Ironman, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was struggling. I was drinking a lot. I had been through one marriage already and was in divorce, my second marriage. And, life wasn't what I wanted it to be. And I had no idea what life was at that point. And at that point, I was like, for the 10th anniversary of 9/11, Ironman, Wisconsin, I want to do something that I don't have to say what I'm going to do, or I don't have to tell somebody what they're going to feel from what I'm going to do, but I want them to see it and through my actions be able to take something away, whatever they need that day. And that's when I came up with the brilliant idea of running the marathon portion in full firefighter gear, 50 pounds, my air pack, my helmet, my bunker pants, my jacket. But I did wear tennis shoes. There's where my genius came in. But it's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and then a 26.2 mile leisurely walk for me. It's about a 7.5, 8 hour walk in my gear. And
it's ridiculous. I have a friend, a half Ironman, like she's preparing, and I'm like, I will be on the sidelines doing this. Like, that's all I can do, because it is, and you've done 23 of them or something like that. Like, I've
done 23 full Ironmans, and I've done 28 halves since 2011.
And that's where I'm saying, like, you're really exceptional.
Now there's that point of which, and it's always funny because I look back at it too, and I go, I don't really know how I finished all of them because your body can only do so much.
Right.
It doesn't matter how much you train. It doesn't matter but your mind is what's going to drive you through to many, many finish lines and past finish lines.
Absolutely.
And that's the only thing that I can really point to. And this was a hard reality too, is that the pain that I was going through in those races was actually helping me to stay alive, because it made me feel like I was doing something important.
Yeah.
So it's a terrible thing. Mental health is a hard thing to deal with, and it's not something that's straightforward. It's not something that we have immediate cures to, or ever will. But it was interesting because that's what spurred me to start to understand myself and start to go forward. And it was interesting that I've went through many therapists, but one therapist said, he's like, the hard part, Rob, is that you see a hole in front of you. And what you're doing is you're taking dirt from behind you and you're filling that hole. But as soon as you take a step back, you fall in that hole that you just dug to fill the one in front of you. So you're constantly just trying to mitigate how you can fill these holes. And for a long time, these races were that filler. I didn't need to dig anything. I was just going through it. And it's a hard reality, but once you start to understand these things, it gets a little easier.
Yeah.
I hate to interrupt this awesome conversation, but I have to stop and talk with you about the number one thing I'm asked about by entrepreneurs: contracts. They're vital to any business relationship and to protect your business. But I also know that entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting up, money is tight. But I would never want you to compromise on a strong legal foundation. So enter yourcontractbuddy.com, a website created by me with contract templates created and drafted by me and fellow industry partners. They're ready to use and easy to plug in immediately. And they are not restricted to any specific state. So yourcontractbuddy.com is sponsoring this episode, and you and your listener can get 10% off right now with code LawChat. Yes, you heard me right. 10% off right now with code LawChat. And now back to our awesome conversation.
Well, I think it speaks volumes on understanding yourself, right? Like, yes. I think sometimes we don't take time, regardless of what season we might be in, but we don't take time to just pause and understand our actions and understand the impact of our words on ourselves and also on somebody else that's in front of us. And so it's really lovely that you're in a place right now where I'm assuming from our conversation is that where you are reflective, where you're also thoughtful and intentional about where you're going. And that I think is super impact, especially I think mental health is very it's very common in the sense of whether it's a small amount or a big amount of what you're experiencing. And so, especially in today's day and age, we have so much consumption of content, whether it is business, whether it is news, whether it is just, online with somebody chatting, texting. I mean, it's constant. And so you're just bombarded with so much information that we don't take time to pause and allow our minds to rest.
Oh, you're so right, because we take in content, but we don't consume it. Let's put it that way. Is that, it's like going and eating your dinner and saying, okay, you have a steak dinner and you cut it up into small pieces. And the way that most people eat their information nowadays is they just shove it in, they don't chew it, and they just throw it down their throat. So there's no real understanding of what the taste is, what the flavors are, what is the texture of it. So the context behind what we talk about is lost. And that's where, like you were talking about storytelling, it's so powerful, because I could tell you that, go out there and have a resilient mindset. But if Rob doesn't have a story to tell you why, or that he's ever had a resilient mindset, because maybe I haven't done anything in my life, but I'm saying, hey, you need to have a resilient mindset. It's like, what about you? Do you have one? No. It's like our lives, our journeys are catalysts to helping others to realize their journeys. But at the same time, our lives are fundamentally dictated by how much we go beyond just the normal 4 journeys. I talk about our 7 catalysts. The 7 catalysts I talk about is passion, ownership, decisions, emotional control, resilience, faith over fear, and mental strength. And a lot of people are like, okay, well, how do those all combine? Like, I didn't create any of those words. Those words have always been around. I just looked back at my life and said, okay, well, how am I still here, and how am I still moving forward? Whether I'm thriving or not, I'm still surviving. And the key is you have to have passion or purpose. And everyone has a unique passion and purpose. And that's the great thing in life, is that once you find that, you can start to take ownership of your actions, your inactions, your talk, all of your decisions that you're going to start to make that make sense, from tactical, which are like little small decisions that are kind of unconscious decisions, to strategic, which are like the big ones. So like when I went for the Guinness World Record, I knew that I had to hit 22. But that was my strategic decision. My tactical was you got to get through the next mile. But then you go on to, I can make these decisions, but I have to have the emotional control to be able to not veer because somebody said something mean to me, or veer because I'm scared and I don't understand what's going on here. That's going to really inevitably, that training is going to help you to be resilient. Resilience isn't something that you're born with. Resilience is something that you gain through making decisions, failing, succeeding, failing, succeeding. And eventually what that's going to do is that's going to lead you to have faith in yourself over all of the fears that surround us every single day of the year. And inevitably that's going to lead you to have mental strength that is going to help you down the path to what potential you have.
I love that. And that is all in your book.
That's all in the book. Yep. Forged in the Fires.
Forged into Fire. Yes. And I think that is lovely, because it is actual practical, cycles that we go through in our
it is
life. And I'm going to rewind a little bit. I know that you are an Air Force veteran. And so did you go into that soon after high school? Is that something that you did?
No, I actually, after September 11th, my life was not straightforward. I had been in the Madison Fire Department, and I actually left the Madison Fire Department to go active duty. So this was after September 11th. So I went in active duty after that. Just felt like I needed to have something different in my life. I needed to kind of focus myself, and amazing opportunity to understand why we have what we have and what it takes to be able to get what we have.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking about that earlier, that it is the front line, our military and all that really helps us be having these conversations here, being able to voice our opinions, being able to live a life where we believe that we have the freedom to make those choices, and the freedom of thought, and, the freedom to congregate and do all these things that we're supposed to be doing in the Bill of Rights. And so it's because of the protection that our military provides us, which includes you and all the things that you have done as well. So thank you for that. I mean, I feel it's like you're so estranged from the reality of what's happening versus how you're living, even with COVID, right?
Right.
If you were not in the front lines of medicine as a healthcare provider, you also were very estranged from what was actually happening in the hospitals and with patients and all that stuff. And so it's one of those things where I'm thankful for that ignorance, but then also I'm very grateful for why I have that ignorance.
That's such a great point. I think a lot of individuals, and I can only speak for myself, but I mean, a lot of individuals in the first responder community and in the military communities, they do it because they want to. They love it. It's not because it's like, yes, I can stand on top of this podium and be the, they do it because they love it. I mean, going through all those things, and I think, going back to the military, I think there's a lot of people that don't understand that even though they may not see a war on the media, or they may not see it, there's a lot of conflicts that are going around the world that nobody knows about. There's a lot of things that are going on in the military that nobody knows about, that is ensuring the safety and the rights and the liberties that we have. And you'll never know about it, and that's okay. But don't discount that these 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are choosing to go into the military right out of high school, or that, these, the cadets or whatever it is, that they're going in for the greater purpose. And I can't tell you how I went in at 23 and going in and seeing some of these individuals who didn't have many other options in their lives, going in and basic training. And I'm still enamored by the individuals within the military and that continue to serve, that have served 20 years. It's an amazing group of individuals that a lot of people never get to meet, that should be shaking their hands every single day, because they really do the jobs that nobody else would want to do.
Exactly. The unsung heroes that we have. So when you were in the Air Force, I know I'm assuming that you picked up a lot of what you talk about in the book, also like those skill sets and discipline, and all the things that that a person would expect that you would be honing into as a member of the Air Force. Did you fly planes also, or is this something
no,
like
I was a medic.
Force? Like what? Okay,
I was a medic. There's so many different. So it's so funny. Is like in the Air Force, there's so many different jobs. And actually, my son's looking into going into the Air Force. He's in high school right now. But I was a medic in the military, in the Air Force.
Awesome. So if you don't mind sharing, what is one thing that really stands out during that experience or that time where it was life-changing for you?
I think there's a lot of things. I would have to say, being in the military, I think going through basic training was probably one of the biggest kind of just realizations of, like, because I had been in a good job. I had been a firefighter. I had made good money. I had been married. I had had a house and all this other stuff. To go from that to basic training, where I had underwear, socks, my BDUs and my boots and some personal belongings, and I had my body. That was it. To go to that extreme, and then to find out, like, service before self, integrity first, all these things, excellence in all we do. That's the Air Force, the mottos of the Air Force. And you think about it from that perspective. And when I went in, I didn't really know what I was getting into. And leaving basic training, I understood a greater respect of kind of who I was and who I needed to become. I was a long ways from it. And I think the military just provided that understanding, the greater understanding of, be appreciative of what we have, because it can be taken away at any moment.
That's incredible. I can't imagine the experiences and the impact that it had on your life, in a way where, you are now dealing with other issues that are constantly there, but you've obviously built a way to combat those also. So after the Air Force, where did you go from there?
So I actually went back to the Madison Fire Department, and I've been there ever since. So, so I've been with the Madison Fire Department now for 21 years. That's 22 years.
That's incredible. And then while you're there, what are some of the challenges that you've had as a firefighter?
Oh gosh. I think the biggest thing that, like, I've been in many fires, I've been in many rescues, I've been in many medical calls. That's mainly what we run. 85% of all fire departments run medical calls. That's your bread and butter. But I think the biggest thing from this is the mental health aspect that I've had to go into with the fire department, that continually, even now as I'm 43 years old, going in every day, it opens that wound. It's like a scab. Every day that you go in, you have new calls that open up that scab. And for me, my goal now is to try to help with that mental health with other individuals as well as myself, running towards the end of my career here in the fire department.
Yeah. So I know you've written a book, and I know in that book you talked about some of the things that we were talking about earlier. So kind of diving into that a little bit more, where do you begin? I mean, if there's somebody that comes to you and that says, gosh, this is just, I can't do this anymore. I
Right.
I don't see the end of the tunnel right now. So where do you begin?
I think it's darkness lit by a fire is what I like to call it. And the fire has to be your purpose. Why you here. And a lot of times it can be really something really small to start off with, because finding your ultimate purpose is something that you're going to go your entire life. Because if I had the same purpose I had when I was 10 years old, I'd be playing Legos all the time and no, I have no job. But as you look at people who are grasping at straws, who are looking desperately for something to attach to, that you have to give them some unique purpose that's different from everybody else's. You can't say, well, your life is valuable. They don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why have you woken up the last 7 days?
Exactly.
If they can take just a little thing. Okay, you woke up the last 7 days because you wanted to have a drink of alcohol. Okay, that's something. But why did you want to have that drink? Why did you want to continue to go? So you dive down deeper into the why. That's always the key first step. Once they can figure out that why, a little why, you want them to start to take ownership of their life, because then they have that. It was kind of like when I started doing my races, and I felt that I had to finish these races, or I had to go out there and endure that pain to help honor those who had lost their lives at 9/11, but also at the same time to inspire and impact others. I had a purpose, but then I was owning it by doing the actions. And so once people start down that path of understanding why they're there and understanding that you're there and you have to own that, everything that goes with that, you have to own, they can start that journey. Not an easy one. It's not an easy one. And, the hard, fast rule of it is that sometimes it's going to be a lot more failure than it is going to be success in the beginning.
Yeah. And failing it's really important. Just going back to that class that I had, one of the first questions in the first day was, well, how many times have you failed?
Right.
And they were looking as failure as the end all, like a stop, like, a period.
Yeah.
And I love that they asked that question, because it gave me an opportunity to say, listen, failure just means that you're going to pick yourself up again and do it over again, but do it better, or do something else that is giving you new opportunity, new doors,
Yes.
New ways of thinking. Failure doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't reflect you at all. It just reflects the situation that's there. And it's important to change the narrative on the word failure and also on the word of follower. And what I mean by that is follower. I mean, it's one thing to get peer pressure and want to do things because others are doing it, so I need to do it to look cool. That's a whole different situation. That kind of followers is not cool. But it's okay to be a follower. It's okay to be the person that's not necessarily the leader all the time or ever. Because quite frankly, all the CEOs of this world need the followers so they can get their stuff done, because the CEOs aren't getting it done. And so it's there. Everybody plays an important role, whatever your makeup is. There's no right, there's no wrong. But like you were saying, finding that purpose, and it could be a new purpose. It doesn't have to be a purpose you've always lived with. It doesn't have to be the purpose you woke up for yesterday. It can be a brand new purpose today. And so once they find that purpose, and I kind of want you to kind of go through your steps again.
Definitely.
Because we kind of breezed through it last time, and I kind of want to go through it again a little bit more. And if you can kind of speak a little bit more in depth about them. Because I know that this is something that we all tackle. It's nothing that is just unique to one or two people.
Oh yeah, definitely. No. And I think when you look at purpose, and I think this is one of the big things that people need to do, is reflection is huge. And when I talk about purpose, they're like, okay, well, how do I find these? And a lot of times you find your purpose through impact moments. So what I mean by impact moments are these large situations that have changed the trajectory of your life. And it could be for the better or for the worse. So 9/11 was a huge impact moment in my life.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what purpose do I bring from that? Well, for me, one of the biggest purpose was, man, I'm alive, so I need to continue to live my life. That was a purpose that I had for a long time because of that impact moment. So a lot of times people can dive deeper into that purpose by finding what impact moments they had and going, okay, well, how did that affect me negatively, or how did that affect me positively? And then from that, decipher what is my purpose? Why am I continuing to go forward? So you go from that to owning, and ownership is one of those things that is probably one of the least utilized things in this world, because we like to make excuses. We like to constantly put our issues on other people. One of the acronyms that I like to use for ownership is be open. So one is be you, be the unique self that you are. And being you have to have the integrity to own up to what you're saying. Second part is you have to, in the open part, is optimistic. So to own things, you have to be optimistic that no matter what you're going to say, if you did something wrong and you own it, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because you're continuing to move forward. You have to be persistent, energetic, and necessary. And what I mean by necessary is you have to be yourself. I call this productive adaptability. You have to be yourself, but you have to adapt to the surroundings to be able to be relevant in that time. Don't change your uniqueness of who you are, but you have to make sure that you can adapt still to be relevant in that time. That's really where the ownership component comes into play. Once you get that, decisions are one of the scariest things that people have today, especially like when you're talking about failure. And I love this, because the way that I look at failure is one of those things where you say, the only reason you failed usually is because you went outside of your comfort zone. You weren't able to do that. That's awesome. And now you can try to succeed and try to reach that pinnacle that maybe you weren't able to get to before, or maybe you didn't believe you could get to, but you were good enough to fall on your face and fail. That's a huge victory right there.
Huge.
And so decisions, when you look at decisions, I talked about tactical and strategic. It's like tactical decisions are ones that you want to create as habitual decisions that you make, that are good decisions, that are just going to be subconscious, and that you're going to make, in the morning, I'm going to wake up and do 20 push-ups. Great. It's a tactical decision. What's the strategic decision of that? I want to be healthy. I want to be able to do 100 push-ups by March, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So making sure that you have your small goals, that's what everybody says. My small goals, my big goals. I say tactical, because tactical means that you're actually going to do it. You can make a goal, but if you don't do it, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
I have tons of goals on papers, but it doesn't mean anything until I have them crossed off.
Exactly.
But then all of this really comes down to like having the emotional control to not overreact to people. So I always say that emotions are going to be inevitable in all situations. It's your reaction that is manageable. And to be able to have emotional control in all situations, I call it tolerant debate now, is one of those things, is that we're all going to have different opinions on things. And that's good. If we didn't have different opinions on things, this would be really, really boring. Being able to listen to somebody and being able to have them explain to you without you reacting, that's that emotional control component. You're learning, maybe you don't agree with it, but you're learning more so that you can be more intelligent when you're making your decisions. And inevitably, this is going to lead to you having resilience.
Yeah.
That's what the resilient mindset is so critical to people nowadays, especially in the first responder community, because imagine getting bombarded with 16 calls in a day. what is your emotional control going to be after they're, call 10?
Yeah.
But the more that you control, the more that you start to teach yourself, the more resilience you're going to actually have, not only for work, but at home, for other projects that you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And inevitably that comes down to having that faith in yourself, having that belief. And with your class that you're going to put on, that's really what you're going for, is that belief in yourself over the fears of everything else that everybody's saying. You can't do this because you're here. You shouldn't do this because you're here. You will never do this because you don't know what you're doing.
Love it.
So many people have said that. And that faith in yourself over the fears, really, all these things lead into your mental strength. And mental strength is that ability to find fuel in a gas tank that has no fuel. It's that ability to persist when everybody else is saying, I don't think that's a good idea. That's really what all of those 7 catalysts are about, is taking each one and making it your own and elaborating on it and giving stories to it. The book, I always encourage people to write in it. I have activities in it, and it's like, make this your own, because this is something that it changes over time, but the concepts are always constant.
I just love this pathway to resilience, and the link to the book will be is it sold on Amazon?
Yep. It's sold on Amazon.
We'll put that link directly into the show notes as well. And I truly love that. And if you are out there listening and you're like, well, I don't even know how to start, you're right. You need to muster the courage. So you just have to take that first step. And then when you take the first step, it'll be easy. And then you'll take the second step and you might fall, but that's okay. The idea is that in our mind, we still think about it, but then we have to truly take that first step. And it's in anything, even in your business, even if you're going to do a triathlon, anything.
It's one step.
Just take that first step. And even if you don't finish that triathlon, it's okay, because there's going to be more. And the fact is that now you've gotten enough courage to move forward. And that courage helps you build confidence and that faith in yourself to know that you can do it. And sometimes that is all that you need also, is just to know that I made that step. And I don't know if you've ever done the strength finders or any type of personality test on yourself.
Yeah, I've done them. I do emotionally intelligent. I do the testing as well as the teaching on that. And so it's so valuable. It's so valuable.
So if you do any personality tests, I personally love strength finders. It just tells me so much about myself. And my number one thing is achiever. And achiever is essentially somebody who keeps creating crazy goals. And it's not like I'm creating a goal for long term. Yeah, I'm doing that, but even short term. And once I finish, I'm happy with it for about 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, what's my next goal? And it's literally like this vicious cycle of achieving. But now that I know myself about that, I know that's me. I need to rein it in a bit in certain areas. Yeah. And also not set myself up for failure in the sense of creating things that I just can't achieve right away or in the timeline that's in my brain, because that can cause guilt. And that's okay. But it can be mentally, you're constantly.
Oh, you're just it's that self-talk.
Yeah. But it's self-talk, which is absolutely so helpful, but also it's the ability to kind of sit back and see what's happening. And how you were saying, taking ownership of something and also not showing reactions right away, because our reactions can make or break the situation. And just like when you're running a triathlon, you just said my body was giving up, but it's the mental that takes you through it. I've gone through health issues and my mental is what got me through it, not my physical. And that is literally, I want to say that's 90% of the game is your mind, and then everything else is there.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say, when we were talking about the self-talk is, there's a great quote that says, you think what I tell you is bad. Just imagine how I talk to myself.
Oh my God.
And it's one of those things. It's it's so true, because we are our own worst critics, but not our best coaches.
Yes. Oh, so true. My goodness, you have given so much wisdom to us, and I just love talking to you. I mean, it's just that immediate connection. It's easy. And I'm sure it's easy for many to talk to you this way also, because your personality is so open and you have so much abundance of service in your heart that it's easy for you to give all of this away. So thank you so much. But before we say bye-bye, I always like to ask a few questions, like some personal questions. And my number one
Definitely.
question, though, is something I ask every single guest of mine is, what is your anchor? When things are just chaotic around you, what holds you steady?
That's a great one. You know, I want to say my family, but it's so much more complicated than that because I lost my dad in 2019 to cancer. And talk about an anchor for me. He was my high school basketball coach. As I went on all these races, he was always there and always that voice of reason. And I still, to this day, I have a tattoo that says, hold on tight, everything will be all right. Was what he always said to the kids. And the other thing that he always said, control the controllables. I mean, he had everything, all these different great statements. So, my family is my anchor, but maybe my family is the chains to the anchor that was my dad, that keeps me focused on who I should be and who I need to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I think it's so beautiful that you had that relationship with your dad, and so beautiful that he was that kind of a mentor in your life,
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we search outside for mentors, but sometimes the mentors are just sitting right next to you. So it's important to recognize them as well. So it's so nice.
So hard for kids to do that. And that's one of those things is that they look at you and you have to discipline them as the father. But at the same point, you're like, I'm not disciplining you because I enjoy this. This is not fun for me either. It's like, we're doing this because our job as parents, it's not even a job. It's our responsibility as parents is to teach our kids how to be the best human being possible that they can be. Not that everybody else can be, not that, John down the street can be. It's the best human being that they can be. And after 18, it's up to them to create that path.
Yeah. I tell it to my daughter all the time and my son. I'm, if I'm kind of getting hard on them about something, I'm like, listen, the reason I'm doing this because I know your potential and I know you're not living up to it right now. I believe in you. Oh my
God, that's like parenting book 101. I love that. I
believe in you.
I believe in you more than you do in yourself.
I believe in you. So therefore I'm going to talk like this to you right now.
Oh my gosh, isn't that crazy? I mean, you could probably go back into the 40s and the same statement was made in the 40s.
I know.
George Washington said the same thing to his kid.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's been such a pleasure talking to you, hanging out with you. I'm going to put your link to your book because I usually ask, what's your favorite book? But I want to read your book actually. So I'm just going to push that out there.
I appreciate it.
If somebody does want to connect with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, they can go to firemanrob.com. Everything's on there. I have my personal email. I don't have an assistant. So any emails that you send or connections through that firemanrob.com goes right to me. And I'm usually pretty good at returning them. So
wonderful. And are you on any type of social media out there?
I am. I'm on all brands of social media.
Okay.
Do I love it? No. I put it out there. So Fireman Rob Strong on Instagram, Team Fireman Rob on Twitter. I have a LinkedIn page, Robert Fireman Rob Verhelst. And then that's the same for my Facebook. And then I'm actually putting together a new YouTube page. Right now I have Fireman Rob Inspires is the YouTube page, but there'll be new ones coming out in the summer, along with actually a year-long course that people are able to take for personal development. And the best part about it is I love making it accessible and affordable for everybody, because it's not about how much money you make. It's about the value that you put into this world. And so it's going to be exciting. It's from my heart, and I'm always very vulnerable, and hopefully people will take away that.
Oh, well, again, exceptional. So thank you so much for being on Law Chat. I really enjoyed speaking to you, and this was such a treat. Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing what you're doing, because it's important.
Thank you so much for joining Law Chat with Girja. I just love these kind of conversations that are motivating, inspiring, but truthful, raw, and honest about all of the challenges, all of the victories, all of the triumphs, picking ourselves back up again. I just can't think of a better way to get mentorship but Law Chat with Girja. If this was helpful to you or this was inspiring to you, please share the love. You can give this video a thumbs up. You can subscribe to this channel. You can also share this with your community by taking a screenshot and posting it on your social media and tagging GBP Law. When you do that, a lot more people will be able to see this video that not only benefited you, but also can benefit them as well. So let's share that love and let's share that inspiration. And if you want more information about what I do and other resources, go check out gbplaw.com or yourcontractbuddy.com. And I look forward to seeing you next time.